Salutations, utopians. Hope all is well in your world. So there's big time breaking news right now. The Hornets and the Timberwolves are engaging in a swap right now. LaMelo Ball and Josh Green are going to Minnesota Timberwolves for Naz Reid, a 2033 first round pick, 3 first round pick swaps in 2028, 29, and 30, and 3 second round picks, 29, 32, and 33. So 3 seconds, a first, and then 3 swaps. Along with Naz Reid, the Sixth Man of the Year winner a couple years ago, about 2 years removed now. First thing that comes to mind is Tim Connolly realizing, I think, one, seeing the Thunder, and let me be very clear, Ant made it clear, some of the reports about him being frustrated about watching other people succeed. Well, Ant kind of put it on himself when he said, I don't care to be the face of the league a few years ago. And then, there was even talks before that when Karl Towns was in Minnesota about being frustrated with the way Ant eats, enjoying chicken and fried foods. So I'm not surprised, that, he was starting to drift in terms of being taken serious. And then, he made statements about, we listen, Finch tells us what to do, but we don't listen. So quietly saying like the locker room might be tuning him out. They all got their own agenda. Naz Reid is a special player, rare 3-level scorer who always kind of felt like, if you watch body language, not that he didn't have any problems with Ant, but you could kind of tell like he felt he had some star qualities, and he was more than a six man. And then, when Karl Towns got traded, it's one thing when you're backing up, a 4-time depoy, whether you agree with it or not, and Rudy Gobert, and then, Karl Towns being the franchise darling, the guy they drafted first overall. It's a different story, but then, okay, you can be a six man, especially, when you know where he was drafted. But then, Julius Randle arrives and Randle gets priority over him. And it's like, okay, I mean, I get it. He's been around. He's an all-star, played with Kobe. Okay, cool. But at some point you watching him stink it up. And it's like, well, one of these guys got to move. And I was watching during the draft, the Hornets, and I was wondering like, damn, they didn't go CNAC. They need a power forward. That small ball, and I said it in my draft day one video when the Hornets drafted and went guard, which was kind of an indicator. Christian Anderson with their second first round pick. I like the Hans Steinbach pick because I watched him. He's a rebounding machine, and now it all makes sense. Funny because the other day I was thinking in my head, Anthony Davis should go to Milwaukee. Kyle Kuzma should go to the Hornets. That would be pretty cool because, Davis is from Chicago. So that would be the, being home, but not exactly in home. And with those true stretch fives they got in Milwaukee, right? But they need to get something at the 4 Charlotte. And so, Christian Anderson's a very talented player out of Texas Tech. 18-7 kind of guy, complete player, taller on the taller end of point guards. I think he's about 6'4". So, he's a talented dude. But it was also very revealing, and then obviously we know historically there was some bumping of heads. But let me continue with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tim Connolly losing his top assistant to the Portland Trail Blazers. You kind of just felt like the walls were sinking in for the Wolves, and so they got active. And this is right on brand with who Tim Connolly is, making the big splash, landing a player of LaMelo's stature. I kind of confused why, if LaMelo was on the block, why didn't the Clippers swap out that 5th overall pick and get him? Considering I look at Wagler as a bootleg type of LaMelo in that sense. Somebody said it online the other day, and I agreed with that. So to me, it was like, why not get in the sweepstakes? And try to like double if you're so concerned about your investment with respect to Garland. But watching and he's from Charlotte, Christian Anderson, to add, but you could tell that the Wolves were pressing the panic button. And so it was time to start making, you know, um, it was time to start making the next move to compete with, knowing how the Spurs are looking, the Thunder are looking. Those are the two main head horses, and then the Rockets are going to get Fred VanVleet back, and point guard is going to be settled, and they're going to have their top floor general. So it was like, the Lakers are fine tuning their squad. I'm sure there's something in the works at center. There's no way the Lakers are going into this season and not going to solve this starting five issue that they have. But on the Charlotte end, Charles Lee bumping heads with LaMelo. Is reported there was, philosophical differences. Me personally, I think it's a bad move for Charlotte to move off LaMelo. You got to have that guy who's marketable. Moving off of LaMelo when you finally got a franchise piece, not like people run down the hill, but they're going to play very fundamentally sound ball in Charlotte. There's a passing in the East going on quietly. Cleveland and Detroit might be taking a step back. You're seeing teams like Milwaukee or Charlotte, or who made the play-in, which was a step in the right direction, but they look like they want to play more serious ball. That was the biggest indicator to me last season when going Concanoopel, getting a 4-year polished player. It's going to be interesting to see how Concanoopel adjusts. I think LaMelo did a lot to make him look better than what people anticipated, because he was damn near rivaling Cooper Flagg for Rookie of the Year. And I think a lot of that comes from when you got a point guard who's going to get it to you. Now we've seen what LaMelo did for Khan. Imagine the scoring spread that's going to change now for for Anthony Edwards, when he has someone who can, he's been running with Mike Conley as his point guard. With that being said, I also like the fact quietly Josh Green from the Hornets. He's a physical dude. Another Filipino, I think, born guard who you see them run now with Harper and Jordan Clarkson winning a championship. A lot of momentum right now in the Philippines in basketball relations from that perspective. But I also like the idea that this might be the rumors might be true. DiVincenzo also might be on the move. I don't think this is an indictment that the Wolves made a mistake or anything. They had to move off their cap on Towns. They had tried every variation and everything. I don't think this is any indictment on that, but it looks like that he's out of town too next. DiVincenzo, some have linked him back to the Knicks. Obviously, I would love to see that. Yesterday's pick with Tyler Nickel, I think he would make a phenomenal mentor, who I think to defense, who, that's part of why I like the pick, because he has that spice to him. He's got that, that mix it up style where he's ready to get active, for the front of the jersey and the pride of the team, and he's physical for his. And I think that would be a wonderful mentor to the investment in Tyler Nickel if possible. But with that being said, anyway, I think both teams definitely got better, and I think this was a net positive for both teams. You could tell that the Wolves' back were against the wall and they needed a splash. I don't necessarily know if it coming in the form of a big man that would work. Give me 1 second. Who they're going to put at power forward. They've emptied both of the Randall and Naz Reid. I don't know if they're going to go to a small ball. McDaniels moves over to the 4. So Ayo plays the 3, who they gave 100 M's to. Not quite sure. I mean, I think Ayo had a nice run, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, they had to do it. When you trade for a guy, you got to re-up him to show that you made the right decision. But what does that mean? McDaniels is the new 4. They're going to play small ball and have Rudy Gobert feed Gobert more in the paint and rely on the perimeter, I guess. It does kind of, with the long ball shooting from LaMelo, kind of magnifies what Rudy Gobert's contribution is to the team, and I think they want to feed him more in the paint. I mean, he's 7'2", he's right at the rim. Might as well use him and try to get more out of him than just being a rim protector. So we'll see how this all plays out. If McDaniels is at the 4, the West is pretty bulky. It'll be interesting to see. I think that small ball hybrid game, even though he's 6'10", 6'9", he's very light in the pockets. A team like Houston might exploit that. We'll see how this all plays out. I'm sure McConnelly has it. They had Joshua Jefferson. They sent his rights to Brooklyn. I'm surprised they didn't keep that. That would have been a nice, insurance policy right there. But we'll see how this all plays out. Either way, it's an exciting offseason. We got Giannis being traded, LaMelo being traded. Stay tuned. I can't wait to see. Maybe John Moran is next. Jaylen Brown is up in the air in terms of what might happen there. This has been a very entertaining offseason and plenty more to come, I'm sure. All right, Utopians, I'll try to do better next time. Global, out.